Well, good evening, everyone. Our reading and reflection tonight for Wednesday, the 8th of April in Holy Week is taken from John chapter 13, reading verses 21 to 32. And I'm reading again tonight from the New International Version. After he had said this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and testified, "I tell you the truth, one of you is going to betray me." His disciples stared at one another, at a loss to know which of them he meant. One of them, the disciple whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter motioned to this disciple and said, "Ask him which one he means." Leaning back against Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." Then, dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, son of Simon. As soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered into him. "What you are about to do quickly," Jesus told him. But no one at the meal understood why Jesus said this to him. Since Judas had charge of the money, some thought Jesus was telling him to buy what was needed for the feast, or to give something to the poor. As soon as Judas had taken the bread, he went out, and it was night. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once." Now, when preparing for the reflection on our reading tonight, I remember the story told by a priest who worked in a rural location where there are many farms and sheep. The priest said that when the sheep are taken off in a lorry to be slaughtered, they instinctively feel great unease. And when they arrive at the slaughterhouse, they can smell and sense great danger. So they usually refuse to move down the gangplank of the lorry into the slaughterhouse. However, the priest said that the people who work there devised a way of getting around this problem by keeping and training a single sheep at the premises that they take up the gangplank onto the lorry and then walk it back down again. Then, upon seeing one of their own kind leading the way, the other sheep will then usually follow. And because of the role that this sheep plays, the slaughterhouse workers named him Judas. What connotations this name has carried throughout history, and what bad feelings it still invokes in people today whenever they hear the name uttered, all because of the actions of one man in tonight's reading. This is why one of the shortest books in the New Testament is known as being written by a man called Jude, because the author no longer wanted to be known by the same name as the disciple who betrayed his brother, Jesus. And like me, have you ever thought to yourself, why did Judas do it? He had been chosen by Jesus to be one of his 12 disciples. He had followed Jesus and listened to his teaching for 3 years. He had seen Jesus turn water into wine, feed 5,000 people with a few pieces of bread and fish, heal a blind man so that he could see, and he was a witness to Jesus raising a dead man back to life. Together with the other disciples, Judas spent all of his time with Jesus, and with them he experienced the perfect combination of human emotions and relationships, things that all of us would long for in life: friendship, love, and intimacy. And yet here in our reading we find Jesus at the Passover feast, having just washed his disciples' feet, stating, I tell you the truth, one of you is going to betray me." Then what follows is the obvious question which no one wants to ask. Indeed, in verse 24 of the reading tonight, Peter even prompts the disciple whom Jesus loved to ask the question. And he does. "Lord, who is it?" Why didn't Peter ask if he really wanted to know? Was it that he was afraid of the answer? Did he wonder somewhere deep within himself that in fact it might be him who was going to betray Jesus? However, regardless of why he did not ask, I believe that Peter and the others must have been really relieved when they found out that it was Judas. And perhaps we all are, particularly as we can see in some of the gospel accounts of this event, that various prophecies were made from which it would appear that Judas did not seem to have much of a choice in this matter, and that this was a role he was predestined to play. I have to say that over the years, out of my conversations with people regarding Jesus' betrayal by Judas, what comes across is that people tend to have a love-hate relationship with Judas. On the one hand, he may be hated for what he did, but on the other hand, he may be loved because he's the one who takes the rap and draws attention away from the other disciples, and ultimately ourselves, when we recall the times when we have walked away from Jesus. For in our passage from John tonight, we read that a piece of bread is dipped in the dish, and it is Judas who betrays. But then we know that the following day, a rooster crows, and it's Peter who is denying Jesus. So, looking forward to the next day after this event, and perhaps even now towards today, here and now, we can ask the question, "Lord, who is it?" And crucially, Judas's actions eliminate the one excuse we often hear expressed by people when discussing matters relating to faith. If only I had been there when Jesus was on the earth. If only I had seen his miracles and experienced his teaching, then I would feel able to commit my life to Christ. Well, the truth is that Judas was there. He saw, he heard, he experienced, and yet he betrayed Jesus. So, as we continue to journey in faith, especially during this week of Holy Week, let us continue to put our trust in Christ. For Christ is the light of the world. For as Judas shows us, this is an awesome reality for everyone who is living today, that to refuse the light of Christ and to follow him means to choose the darkness. Amen.